What is good, y'all? It's your boy Deluxe, and on this video for today, of course, this is going to be the fourth video up in the series where, hey, this is going to be a YouTube tutorial. Now, as most of you know, this is all old throwback content. I don't cut hair at all anymore. I simply run my business in the barber industry, helping barbers to be able to charge $100 and build out their clientele while doing that in an efficient time frame. And for me, a lot of going through step-by-step with tutorials doesn't really fit the mold, but I thought, hey, why not? I have the content, and I might as well go ahead and put it out there for the industry and anybody who wants to see a little bit of step-by-step. However, I will not be going step-by-step. For me, step-by-step tutorials never really assisted me in growing as much as other things that I actually want to be able to create this channel more centered around. And one of the biggest issues for me really and making, being able to build up my business, it was never how to cut hair well, right? It was the skills came over time. You can cut hair a million different ways, but the mindset and the way that you approach your business really affected my growth overall. And really for me, the biggest needs to me wasn't that I wasn't able to cut hair well, and this I'm talking about me back when I was charging $16 to $20 for a haircut. Now when I ended cutting hair full time, I was charging $200, and the difference between that, is there really was never about getting clients into my business as a barber, right? It was never about the problem was never around how to get more clients. At $20 a haircut, all I needed to really do was stay in the shop, take walk-ins, build up my business that way. And in about maybe 6 months, I was booked out. Now, seeing where I am right now, and trying to create a program that pushes the industry forward for barbers, the problem that I see is not in barbers who need to cut hair or want to cut hair better from a basic to okay level or great level. It's really those barbers who build up their business from being able to charge $20 to $40, but really have zero amount of time to expand or grow their business, or they just don't feel like they have created impact in their life, right? The problem became after, they created the clientele, or I created the clientele. It wasn't trying to make more money. It was that the whole process became redundant. It felt like every single day I was going back in the shop, doing the same thing over and over again. And I really didn't feel fulfilled or like I was able to grow, and it was really questioning what was I even doing. I was making around $200 a day, but still I felt like stuck, like I had a loss of purpose and drive. I questioned even if I wanted to still be a barber, and really started to doubt myself. And this wasn't like, this was like early on, like maybe like a year and a half, 2 years into being a barber full time, and I was already having these questions because, you start questioning your worth. Am I only going to be worth this $20 price range? Is this all I'm going to amount to is working 14-hour days and having to work this amount of time just to make the money I want to, or is there more out there for me? And even on top of that, I lost a lack of ambition. And for me, what I realized was that most other education really wasn't aligned with where I wanted to go. For me, a lot of the other education I saw in the barber industry was mostly fluffed up information, and most of the people speaking really didn't play the game that I wanted to play at the level I wanted to play at. Most were charging the $20, $30, $40 range, and at a time I did think I wanted that, but when I really set my eyes on wanting to scale my business and build my business up to being able to charge $100 and $200 per haircut, I saw that what they were preaching and what they were doing inside their business really didn't align with me. For me, it made no sense why I would try to listen to someone who charges $40, while me, on the other hand, I wanted to charge the $200 price range. And really, dude, there was a disconnect, right? I can't listen to somebody who is at a lower level than what I want to be at. And really, in those barbers' eyes, and in a lot of barbers, like the consensus around the industry, at least from when I was at that point, was providing more services and being a good servant, doing 30-minute haircuts and cutting as much hair as possible was the way to go. But what I found out was actually the opposite allows you to grow. Being booked out and busy versus growing in the industry are two totally different things. And most individuals are passing along knowledge of becoming busy instead of growing in this industry. And I think that's for me, when I take a look outside the window and see what's going on, or take a look on Instagram to see what is going on in the industry, I see more people wanting to become busy instead of wanting to grow. Being busy and growth, like I said before, is two totally different things. And stripping down your service list, cutting only one type of haircut and aesthetic, and being being the solution to a problem at a high level actually creates value in your business to be able to charge and back up a price range. Now, while the mass majority of barbers wanted to take walk-ins, and a lot of people, especially even still today, which is surprising, they want to bash social media as stupid. And for me, I was actually only focusing on going by appointments and focusing hard instead on my media production. And to be honest, the results speak for themselves. While others while others tried to cut and charge $40 per haircut and try to cut 30-minute haircuts and everything like that, I tried to go ahead and really focus on giving an hour and 15-minute service and charging the $200, because I knew over time the motivation wasn't just to cut hair for $200. And I think that's where a lot of individuals make the mistake at. It was really for me to be able to create time to invest into building a business inside the industry, not injury, but industry. And the problem wasn't really that my schedule would allow me to have the wiggle room to be able to create what I wanted. When you're cutting hair full time, you don't have as much time to invest in other areas of business. If you're cutting 12, 14-hour days at the shop full time, how much more time that you're going to have at full capacity to be able to put great effort in? And great effort means like you're attentive. You're not. I'm sure all of us, when we were cutting hair, I remember myself when I was doing 12, 14-hour days, I couldn't focus when I got home. Even though I wanted to do a YouTube video and all this stuff, I wasn't able to really focus in and hone in like I wanted to. That would really allow the growth. And for me, what most barbers do is while they're working the 14-hour days, they try to add and pile more things onto their plate, which in fact slows them down. If you watch a YouTube video I did a couple of weeks ago, I talked about about focus, and especially inside the barber industry and what I've done for my career. Whereas for me, when I look at focus, I don't look at focus. I look at focus as the main thing that pushes the whole machine forward. That makes the boat go faster inside of my business. Whereas when I talk to other barbers in the industry, what they do, instead of trying to cut things out of their day, they just try to add more shit on, right? They try to add, what do you got going for the day? I gotta do this, and I still gotta cut hair, and I gotta make content, and then I gotta go ahead and check the business, and then I go do this, and then I gotta go check with this. I'm like, holy fuck, how do you make shit work, right? You have to be able to focus on one thing and really achieve that at a mastery level. And really for me, the formula for that must be, it's simple. First, as an individual, I had to identify what I'm trying to create, and for this, for anybody in the industry who wants not just to be busy, but to actually achieve growth, right? Like we said before, being busy and growing are two separate things, and they require two separate ways of setup as well as two separate ways of execution. So for growth, you really have to identify what you're trying to create. Are you trying to create a business on top of that? Are you trying to create free time? Or are you trying to create other flows of income? And business and other flows of income are two separate things. So without the why, the action will always be lost, right? At some point in time, without that why of why you're actually wanting to grow, you'll actually... at some point in time, you'll lose momentum and you'll forget the why. The human mind is always flawed in the way of we forget, like try to remember what you had like 3 Wednesdays ago for lunch, or even what time you had lunch at, right? You can't remember. The human mind is flawed in that sense, where it's very short-term memory. And if we're not being reminded that every single day and of our why, of what we're trying to get to, and it's not as deeply important, we're obviously flawed in that aspect, because when we have no motivation, when we have no drive, when we have no why the fuck would I even try to work hard, right? And honestly, this can be as simple as, I want more time to dedicate to figuring out to what I actually want to do, right? And this was for myself too. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that if I had stayed at the level I was cutting hair for $16-20 and trying to worry about what I wanted to do, I would not be happy. I would be more stressed out. And honestly, there isn't as much pressure on somebody when they're making when I was making $700 to $900 per day, off of 3 to 4 haircuts. I was not at all stressed out like I was when I was making only $200 per day, cutting for 14 hours straight with no lunch, right? And for me, it was just like, okay, if I just do the damn thing and I push forward and I actually get to that level, holy crap, okay, when I get there, I'm gonna not only have more opportunities, but I'm also gonna learn a lot more because of the progression, and I'll be looking at a different worldview, right? I'm sure, a lot of people who are listening to this have seen that like meme or that picture where it's like 3 guys standing on books, right? The first guy is not standing on, and there's a fence in front of him. The first guy not standing on any books, and he can't see over the fence. The second guy is standing on a couple books, and he could see through like a little crack in the fence. And the third guy's standing on like a lot of books, you can see all over the fence. And that's what I think of like when you progress with your business. You're able to see a different level of what's in front of you and what's available. So the why had to be identified first, and that's why I always recommend to barbers. The why must be identified as to why you're wanting to raise prices and grow. Otherwise, you're just gonna want to be busy all the time, and that's actual syndrome. Most barbers actually just want to be busy. They associate being more busy with more money, which is actually the most ass backwards thing that you could actually take towards business. Now, for me, after knowing the why, the amount of time that it will take on each day to invest into this, whatever the why was, of course, it'll vary for each individual, but that's what I needed to figure out on top of that. Like for me, I wanted to be able to put in about 4 to 5 hours of work in, even when I went to the shop, cut hair for about 3 or 4 hours, and know that I did not have to make, and then know not only did I make progress on my back end money, which was the 4 to 5 hours I did before work, but I also made progress on my income today, cutting about 3 to 4 heads, making about $700 to $900. I knew that was solidified for myself, and that's the beauty of what the model I went ahead and really formulated for myself, and what I really put into a lot of my students. It's why you see South Bay Chris, we're even working with him. He just raised his price to $100 recently, even before this coronavirus, and for him, it was more of, okay, let's go ahead and be able to make more, if not the same money, and then dial your time back so you can invest it into other places. Because if we want to grow as well as in other places, our time has to be freed up and our focus must be intently on that thing. You can't work on a business and cut hair at the same time, right? Like you can't be physically cutting hair and while working on a business at the same time. You can do both in the same day, but they need their respected times. And then for me, I knew where I wanted to go, and really all I needed was an idea of how much I also wanted to work during the day and make per day. Now, what the biggest problem for a lot of barbers is when they say I want to charge this much, I want to charge this much. It's more of the ego way of like, I want to charge this much because it sounds good. For me, I attack it in a very much different way. I attack it in a way of how many hours per day do you want to work cutting hair? Simple as that. How many hours a day do you want to work cutting hair? And then out of those hours, how much money do you want to make, right? And of course, all barbers will say, well, I want to make the most money possible. Okay, well, do you want to be making $500 a day, maybe only working like 5 hours? Do you want to be working 3 hours a day, making charging or making $500? Do you want to only be working 2 hours a day? Because then prices definitely vary on what you will charge. It's not, and then we get more of a truer sense that aligns with what you ultimately want instead of a number that sounds good, right? I don't just come up to a number that sounds good for what I want to charge and instead try to schedule my day of how much work I actually want to be doing. Remember, we have to separate time from money, and we have to understand that time is our biggest asset in this, and the money is just a byproduct of the value that we give. And really, we can always add on to value within that hour or however long service we have, but we can never get the time back. So the time must always be, okay, how much time do I want to spend And then on top of that, based off of those numbers, I came to the amount that I wanted to charge my clients, which was really around $180, $200 per haircut. And then with those breakdowns in mind and the formula to follow, really all I had to do was execute on how to properly get there in the time frame of, really for me, it took me about 1.5 years. Same thing with South Bay Chris when we implemented the system with social media, about 1.5 years for him. He honestly should have taken a lot quicker to do that. Suncuts is on course for that as well too. Now, the problem that barbers fall into is from what I've seen is the process is that this process is harder than it really needs to be. When I work with students one-on-one, a lot of them say, okay, well, I'm raising my prices, so I need to add like 3 more services onto my service, right? And I'm like, no, that's not how it works, because then you're kind of working your way backwards on what you're doing. And you need to be focused on what actually makes the boat go faster, and they add unnecessary weight onto their schedule that ultimately slows them down and takes something that can be achieved in, like I said, 12 to 18 months to something that may take way longer, or if anything, doesn't actually move forward. And really after that, you need to have some type of way to attract clients, which is, for me, social media is the tool. But what a lot of barbers forget is that the product still matters, not just the fact that they're on social media. And today, social media platforms are consistently changing. I talked about that in my latest video of Adapt or Die. And so even when they're, like for me, when I see a lot of barbers on social media, a lot of them are only bringing in clients who only pay them $20, $40 because of the content they're outputting, instead of those who pay the range that they are desired of like for me, the $180, $200 range. And what's more is the way that most barbers cut hair is really backwards. Most barbers will cut hair to collect today's money, like I said. But when I really figured this system out for myself, along with my social media strategy, it allowed me to look at every client as an opportunity to get closer to that price point. And that's when I started creating the shift in my business. And this, along with how to jet stream the right clients through my media platform, for not only myself, but as well as the students that I help with, and how to always beat out what the new quote unquote trends are. And instead, these guys are setting the trends. These guys aren't just going along with the crowd. These guys are setting the trends to really dominate the industry in their own personal lane. And that's what I'm aiming to achieve with Elevator Membership. Not only just the breaking free of the industry norm, stop following the norms of, okay, you fall under this category, this is how you're supposed to charge, this is how much you're supposed to make, but also allow them to, hey, if they want to charge $100, $200, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and set everything up that way so we can go ahead and systematically achieve that within about a 12 to 18 month process. And like I said, you see South Bay Chris even today still developing his media, staying ahead of the curve. Josiah is King Cardell, who's making leaps and bounds, and Suncuts, who is creating his own sector of dominating, but you have to have an idea of where you want to grow in the barber business and allow it to work with you to make the money today, to be able to put in work and create the back end money for your business instead of being hand tied and working 12 to 14 hours per day, only making about 200, 300 cutting nonstop instead of only doing 3 to 4 haircuts, making the $700 to $900 per day. And really, the barber industry provides an incredible opportunity, especially with what's going on right now. Right now, there's a lot of people aren't getting haircuts because of what's going on, but there's going to be a time when a lot of this subsides and we're going to go back to normal life. And how we adapt to that and where we take to, I think a lot of barbers actually realize maybe how much they have been slacking on making their business go faster, on creating more paths of income for themselves, or even are at least building their business up to be that range of, okay, I'm going to be charging this much because my value is worth that, as well as how to even do that, right? And a lot of it for the barbers, like I've seen, like I said before, it's an incredible opportunity. The money that you can make on the back end is much more important than whatever you can make today. So how do you make the back end money? Well, you have to be able to sacrifice time, right? Anything worth, especially in business, has to take time. Not only time to develop, but also time that you invest into it to allow it to go through your process of the growth, of figuring out, of evolution, making iterations. And that's why for me, instead of like, even cutting, could I easily have cut hair full time, charging $180, $200? Yes, but that wasn't what I wanted. And for a lot of individuals, they have to understand, what do they want? What do you actually want to achieve? Do you want to be just a barber the whole time? Do you just want to be cutting hair? Or do you want to be really creating at the forefront of the industry, creating a product that is revolutionary? And for me, that was what I was obsessed with. I was more obsessed with how an individual like myself progresses, and how can that be taught to others who aren't having the progression in their business, or who might be struggling with progression. I didn't watch a magic tutorial to do really any of this. And that's why for me, I really even decided to come back and start creating more content on YouTube, on podcasting. And by the way, if you guys have not checked out my podcast already, I highly suggest you do. I put a lot more content that is similar to this and similar to what I've been posting in the last couple of weeks as well. And that link is down in the description below with Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. But with that, like for me, I didn't want to be cutting hair. I didn't want to open up a barbershop, to be honest. It wasn't in my desire, but I did want to go ahead and take the opportunity of the business model that allowed it to free up time for myself, right? What better way to go ahead and not only work on back end money or future tense money that will be coming in from a business that I'm putting in time right now, while still being able to make pretty good money each and every single day. Or I think even at a time, I was only cutting about 3 days out of the week because I was making the $700 to $900 per day. So I was really, 4 days out of the week, I was locked into my business sense. I was able to invest that time. And whether that be with real estate, whether that be with, I know some individuals who want to do Airbnb or whatever it may be, starting a brick and mortar business, starting some type of outside business model, it's always going to have to allow you to take time. And this is the beauty of the industry in my eyes, is like, look, you can go ahead and still do all that amazing stuff. You could still go ahead and create all that and still thrive. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. A lot of individuals don't have in their whatever line of work that they do, that capability to really say, okay, cool. I want to work and build a business right here. A lot of people have to follow the Gary Vee route, right? Which is fine, like grind all night. I've done that. But at some point in time, when you're going to experience burnout. And when you don't, like I've experienced when I don't sleep, when I don't create as much, it's like a ripple effect, right? When I don't get as much sleep, when my body does not recover, when my mind is not at rest, I'm actually not as efficient in my time. Right now, I can do about 2 to 3 hours worth of work better than what I used to when I was cutting hair full time, like 12 to 14 hours of what I was able to do in, like, let's say 8 hours. Because now my mind is more focused, locked in. I have everything down to a system. Whereas before I was very, very like, my mind was restless. I was like checking my phone every couple of minutes. I'm over here distracted. My mind is mentally drained because of taking mental fatigue throughout the day. And as a business owner, you have to have the mental capacity to really be putting in mental energy to put in good hours and good efficient hours on top of your business. You can't just go in there tired after a full day's work and expect to get your best output. It's almost like, for people who play sports, you go ahead and play, you try to go ahead and you go for like a 3-hour hardest workout you ever done in your whole life, and then you try to go play a championship game in whatever sport that you play. It's like, it's probably not the smartest thing to do. You're going to be drained. Your energy level is not going to be at its peak performance, right? Muscles going to be tired. And that's the same way your brain works as well. So for me, even though I was building outside of this, it wasn't at the efficient level. And stuff only started to take off when I started to create more time and freedom into my barbering business that allowed me to focus on other things. It allowed myself to rest and get the rest that I needed to be able to put in the hours of work that I needed to as well. And this is what I love to do in terms of working with students one-on-one, is really being able to say, okay, where do you want to be at in such and such time, right? When I first started working with South Bay Chris, he was just a kid charging like $30 in his garage at the time, right? He was booked out, but he wanted more, and he knew like, okay, cool, it's cool whatever I'm doing, but he wanted to be able to create a system for himself that allowed growth over time. And now you see what he's been able to do right now. I mean, the dude's up for Rookie of the freaking Year. Shout out to him, by the way. Shout out to South Bay Chris, as well as that boy Jay Faded. But both these guys have been able to put in work and really see, okay, cool. If I implement this type of system, if I take this approach and take the mental side of it. And the funny thing is, too, I get a lot of people who try to even say, oh, I'm studying what your students are doing. I'm on the come up. And it's like, look, even the free content that I give out, a lot of people, when they listen to it, okay, like a lot of people will not take the action on it, first and foremost. About 80% of people won't take action. They'll kind of just listen, kind of do what it does, and still be in the same place. The other 20, probably another about 20%, the other 20%, there's a mental gap. And I don't mean like they're a little bit slower, but there is a part of the personal development side that needs to be implemented to allow you to have success. A lot of people don't allow themselves to have success. And that's where really the break off is, and where we bridge the gap with elevated mentorship. And to be honest, nobody else in the industry really is taking the look at it. Everybody's kind of really redundant with their education. It's fading. It's, how to post on social media. It's how to make business cards, how to make an app, how to do whatever. And that's fine, but that's not what created, like I said before, it's not what I wanted to have it's not the level I wanted to play at. I wanted to play at the level that I was at, right? Cutting hair for $200, being able to work on my online business, and then make a swift move outside of that. So with that, y'all, the video is done, but I could talk for days on this. And we will get to a lot more topics on this. And to be quite honest, I'm gonna be posting a video every single week. It's not gonna be a tutorial every week, but it will be an informational video where we will dive into how I approach the industry and how I really see in terms of where to go. And like, look, these videos will be lengthier, right? The video ended a long time ago, but these videos will be lengthier on this channel, because the ones who actually want to go ahead and not just get the quick fix in their business will actually take the value away. They will actually go ahead and start seeing progress for themselves. The ones who go ahead and just want the quick fix, the 5-minute tutorial of how to flick out your wrist the same way everybody else teaches them, they'll be getting the same results. And for me, that's why my students go ahead and dominate in this industry right now. And at the end of the day, results speak for themselves. So with that, y'all, if you found this video of any value, please go ahead and like, as well as subscribe to the channel, as well as make sure to check out my podcast on Apple Music and Spotify. Both links are down in the description below, and you can check those out. I will be dropping a YouTube video like this every Sunday. Won't be a tutorial, like I said, but it will be with an angle of how I approach the industry to go ahead and grow and give value and provide value for those who are still cutting in the industry. So with that, y'all, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.